Welcome again. This is Brother G coming to you again with another video message, another video teaching. Does the seven churches represent the ages of the church? In other words, does the seven churches that is described in the pages or the book of Revelation clearly, clearly articulate, clearly from the writings that these seven churches represent the seven ages of the church? And does it said that? And when I read it for myself, I'm wondering to myself, where did they get this doctrine from that the seven churches represent the ages of the churches? And you hear this teaching all over the place. This teaching is not a denominational teaching, it's a church teaching that the seven churches that John wrote a direct letter to the churches became this doctrine that the seven churches represent the ages of the church. And now, as I've heard from my birth, which is over 30 years ago, that we are still in the Laodicean age. I think I pronounced that right. We are still in the Laodicean age, which is on its face redonkulous. So today, I'm just going to clear up this idea, because if someone who came from out of space or came from under a rock would take up the Bible, learn the English language, learn grammar to certain degrees, not to a high degree, but just learn grammar, and they pick up the book of Revelation without hearing one message or one preaching or one teaching about the seven ages of it, they will never, I am 100% confident they will not get the same message that is being promulgated all over the churches, that the seven churches represent the ages of the seven churches. And simply what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get right back into the verses and just read it very, very plainly. And you see that that's a lie. That's a lie doctrine that keep the church in a circular motion, because they haven't come to the knowledge of the truth. They are still in lie. There is no such thing as the seven churches represent the ages of the churches. And now we're going to read and clearly identify to you that just as if I was writing a letter to my friend, to my family, to my whatever and I direct the letter to that person, and if I had experience with that person, I was living with that person, I had some living experience with that person. When I write the letter, everything that I write to that friend or the person on the other end, that letter, they will understand what I am saying, because the letter is directed clearly to that person. If someone would take that letter and read it, they can't read that letter as if I was writing the letter to them. No, they would take the letter as an example of how this particular person is directing this letter to this particular person. It always confuses me with some of these church doctrine, the way it is interpreted and the way it is looked upon and the way it comes to us. It's almost as if the letter was written to us, but it was not. We have our own experience. It may mirror that of them that pass, but we have our own experience. We have our own life living. God is living. God doesn't stay in the dead. God is living. So why are we using a text that has passed on and using it to represent, God is living? Blessed is he or she that reads and they that hear the word of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Let me stop here and explain a minute. This is not written to me. It means the time is at hand for those people who the letter was written to. It means that they must get things in order because the time is at hand, meaning it is almost here. The time is at hand. It is here. The time is here to do whatever he's sending this letter to do. And John was there before in these churches. He's not writing this letter to me. He's writing the letter to those people at that time. Revelation 1 verse 4. John to the 7 churches which are in Asia. Let's read that again. John to the 7 churches which are in Asia. That means John is writing to the 7 churches of Asia. He said 7 churches, and then he says they are in Asia. Now, many have used the 7 churches here allegorically. Whether it is allegorically, these churches are in Asia. He plainly say they are in Asia. Grace be to you and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne. So clearly, this identify who John is writing this prophecy to is. And a matter of fact, all of us who are unlearned, when we look up the meaning of what prophecy is, not just the dictionary idea or the dictionary concept of what prophecy is, if we look at the text itself and look what they say prophecy is, we will marvel because we never know it was so plain. But I'm not going to get into prophecy. I'm just going to show you that the doctrine that the 7 churches represent the age of the churches is just folly. It's just old wives' fable. It's just story. This letter is clearly written to or directed to a certain group of people because it says it here, John to the 7 churches which are in Asia. And some of us who said the 7 churches in this context is an allegory, it is hard to figure out if that's really allegorical. Because when we go back to other letters in the Bible, we see plainly, like Paul writing to Ephesus, we see Paul writing to Philippi. So it could clearly be so. And then we see in Corinthians where he said to share this letter with their sister churches. So this clearly could be 7 churches which are they're dominant amongst the churches, meaning these are the headquarter churches. And once the letter is written to these 7 churches, it is a surety that the smaller churches will receive them. These 7 churches are the 7 prominent churches amongst churches. So once these churches receive these letters from John, it is a surety that the smaller churches would also get a chance at reading these letters and would hear the prophecy and would also read the prophecy. So clearly, we have shattered that doctrine that these 7 churches represent the age of the churches, which we are forever in the Laodicean age. That's a folly. That is a mystery made up of men who without understanding. Read the text for yourself. You will never read that these 7 churches represent the age of the churches. God is living. We are living. We're supposed to be talking about how we are living in this particular age by the Spirit of truth, not by looking back at the example and trying to recreate the example. God is living. God is not living through the dead, but God is living through the living. Now, we're going to add to this message, this teaching, the mystery of the 7 stars that Revelation talks about, verse 20. This is incumbent upon all of us to read the text for yourself and realize that what is written is what I am talking about. I'm not even interpreting it to a high degree. I'm just reading what is there. Verse 20 are going to further prove that this doctrine that the seventh church represent the age of the churches in which we are in this perpetual Laodicean period is folly, old wife's fable. Let's look at Revelation 20. Revelation 1 verse 20. The mystery of the seven stars which thou sawest in my right hand, the seven golden candlesticks. The seven stars are the angels of the seven churches, and the seven candlesticks which thou sawest are the seven churches. Now, John here is explaining the mystery of the seven stars, which he saw it in the right hand, and the seven golden candlesticks. Remember, now, this is allegorical or symbolic or signs. They are representative of something else. They are signs of representing of something else. So we have to understand this. This is basic kind of English language, right? So the mystery of the seven stars, he tell you that the seven stars are the angels of the seven churches. And I want to give you everything. And the seven candlesticks which thou sawest are the seven churches. That is plain. Now he's going, just skip the book. Well, of course, I'm skipping my book. But if you turn the pages, he's going to reveal the mystery. So there is no more mystery. A mystery, according to the dictionary, is a secret, obscure, obscurity. And then the word, or it could be mystic, come from mystery, or vice versa. Mystic meaning hidden or symbolic. But when you look back and you read the text, he's gonna plainly, he's gonna plainly tell you the mystery of the seven stars and the seven candlesticks. He's going to stay with me. Revelation 2 verse 1. Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, these things said he that holdeth the seven stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the seven golden candlesticks. You hear who John is writing this letter to? It's the church that reside in Ephesus. Of course, this particular church could be a prominent church amongst the other churches. So once this church received the letter, it's by a surety that the other churches will also receive it, to read it and write it. So, but who John is writing this letter to? Not me. I don't even know where Ephesus is. It's in Asia. I never been to Asia. I never been to Asia. So John is writing this letter according to the text to the people, or the saints, or the church, or the group, or the people of the way in Ephesus. This is directed plainly to them. As we read the text, he's explaining the mystery of the seven candlesticks and the seven stars to the church of Ephesus. They knew what John was saying. They are not confused. They know. Why would he send a confusing letter or an obscure letter to them so that they don't know? I'm going to show you the mystery because it's written right there. It says this is what was happening in your church. This is the mystery. This is what you guys have lost. Let's look. And so he praised them on the work that they have. And in verse 4, he's going to tell them what they were lacking. So he was praising them in the other works that they were doing. This is the mystery they were doing. The mystery is it was confusing. They were doing good works, but they left something off. Verse 4. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. The obscurity here, or the mystery here, is the church was, and Ephesus was doing good works. They were trying, those who say they were apostles, they realized they were liars. They were doing all of these good works. But he said in verse 4, they have somewhat again because they have left their first love. Now this is really, really simple. If you leave your first love, that means that you won't have the knowledge of the living God within you or residing in you to continue in this generation or generation to come. That's basically what he's saying. They left off their first love. And he didn't give you a whole list of what they left off. He give you what they were doing, which was good, and they should be building up on those. But he's saying you left off your first love. What basically he's saying is, and we're going to show you what their first love should be. These things are really easy. The devil has surely come into us and scatter us, confuse us with words and all kind of eloquence. But these things are really simple if we just read the text and block out all the crappy doctrine that we have received, which keep us in darkness. So now in verse 5, he tells them to repent. Now we're going to look at what was their first love, because this is where the knowledge and the understanding and the wisdom generate from. If you leave off your first love, this is where all of these things, as Jesus called it, a spring bubble up, or just the spring of life just bubbling up outside of you. So if you leave this off, it's obvious then that you're going to be going to and fro with all type of doctrine, which we are. If we just read the text, let's go and look what is the first love. Deuteronomy 6 verse 5, and thou shalt love their Lord thy God with all thine heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. This is really simple. When you love something enormously, God is not an object. God is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. God is a spirit. And so when you love the spirit of truth, or what is true, or you seek it diligently, you're really seeking God's heart, like David. Like David didn't possess God's heart, but he had a yearn, like as the deer panted for the water. He yearned for that truth. So anything that he heard or experienced, even if he fell in sin, he was so seeking the truth of God, which is a spirit, which then manifests itself through words and then could be taught to many people. When you really love God, meaning you really love truth, you seek it out, you search it out. When you hear issues or circumstance like Solomon, when you hear things, you search it out, you seek it out. And if you have that thing, I'm going to call it a thing for now. If you have that thing, that fire, that spark, you will know when you are hearing truth and when you are hearing lies. So this is their first love they left off. In Matthew, it says it like this. The master came to Jesus and said, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, with all. And this is the first and great commandment. And the second was like unto it. That means the two goes together. Love thy brother as thyself. It work in conjunction with this one, because you can't see God. So you can't say you love God and you can't love your brother. It's a mystery. There is no mystery. John explained the mystery. Their first love is they left it off. And a matter of fact, if they left off their first love, it's clear then that they weren't loving some of their brothers in the churches or sisters in the churches, because they can't see God. But they love God. They love truth to the uttermost, but they cannot love their brother that they see. Now, I would get into it. So there is no mystery. The mystery was before John clarifying to the Ephesians elders that, listen, man, you are doing good work, but you are also lefting off your first love, which you're creating obscurity. You're being obscure. You're loving God. You're doing all these great things, but you're still not loving your brother, because you're not loving God. You're not loving truth. That's basically, there's no mystery here. This is not the seven age or the seven periods of church history. John was writing to Ephesus according to the work that they were doing, and they were leaving off something that is their spark. This is the spark. This is the spirit that flows from in them. This is the crown of life, the love of truth, the love of God. This is the crown of life. God is living. God is not dead. God is living. So we can look at the example in the New Testament, the Old Testament, the New Testament, Revelation. We could look at the example, but try not to recreate the example, but build upon the example. That means we have to go on to better and greater things. We can't keep teaching the example. But the truth is we are lost. We don't have an understanding. So get back to the word. Just read it and you will see that there is no seventh church that represent the age of the church. That's just a lie. There's nothing. I just plainly show you that this letter, Revelation, was to a particular church. And if we use this as an example, it doesn't mean that we try to recreate it. But rather what we do, we build on better things on it as life goes on. God is living. And there you have it. Peace and blessing.